Hey everyone, I'm Ian. Let's talk about video game compilations.
They're one of the most important elements of preserving long-running video game series in the public eye. Collections allow franchises that have tons of entries for outdated hardware to be accessible to people that may not have easy access to them. Plus, it's usually a lot cheaper than buying the original versions. Like, sure, you can fork over a few $100 for the first 6 Mega Man games on NES, or you can buy this convenient PS4 disc for around $20 and get a bunch of cool extra features. Mega Man, Crash Bandicoot, Castlevania, Mario, Namco arcade games. If there's something to be compiled, it's probably already been done, and that's a pretty great thing.
But what about Sonic? Have his games ever been compiled? Well, yes, obviously. There are a great number of Sonic compilations, and today we're going to look at all the ones that I own. I'm not including every single time Sonic's ever appeared in a collection, and I'm not including Sonic Adventure DX either, which featured a bunch of Game Gear games as unlockables, just because they were a side feature and not the main attraction. We're going to be looking at things that are marketing themselves as Sonic compilations, and that is a practice that dates way back, all the way back to the Sega Genesis. And actually, does this even count? It's more like a multi-cart than a compilation, right?
Well, since it's literally called Sonic Compilation in Europe, it seems appropriate enough. Sonic Classics is a multi-cart for the Sega Genesis that contains Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. There were a few multi-carts like this for the Genesis, most famously Six Pack, but this is the only one that's totally Sonic themed, and yeah, it's fine. It's Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Mean Bean Machine on the Genesis, just like they already were. They look and play exactly as you'd expect them to, although I do rather enjoy the 16-bit recreations of the various games' box arts. That's neat.
There are more multi-carts like this for the Game Boy Advance and the Game Gear, but we're not going to take a look at those. For one, I don't own them, and honestly, they're just kind of boring. They're the original games as they were presented. You know what's not boring, though? Lock-on technology.
Sonic 3, lame. Sonic and Knuckles, weak. Sonic 3 and Knuckles, that's where it's at. Try to do Knuckles Chaotix and Knuckles, but the cartridge wouldn't fit. Anyways, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is pretty beloved by fans, and it's neat because it's a multi-cartridge clusterfuck. But what if I told you that all the variants of this game are available on one convenient CD-ROM, no lock-on required? Bam, Sonic and Knuckles collection for the PC. Sonic and Knuckles collection and Knuckles? No? Okay.
This one's actually really interesting. It's got Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic the Screensaver, which it's a screensaver. I'm not looking at that. What do you expect from me?
Well, that's Sonic 3 and Knuckles, alright. It's a pretty solid way to play Sonic 3 on PC, though definitely not the most convenient way anymore, given that this won't work by default on Windows 10, plus you can always play Sonic 3 Air on Steam, which makes this seem a little redundant nowadays. Still, it's definitely interesting, even though it's mostly a straight conversion of the Genesis games. Certain elements didn't quite work out, most notably the sound effects and music. They just couldn't be synthesized on PC sound cards the way they were on the Genesis, so the sound effects are recordings of the Genesis sounds, and the music are all new arrangements done through various MIDI formats that match the standards of the time. MIDI Sonic music actually works pretty well, all things considered, but some tracks are completely different, namely Carnival Night Zone, Ice Cap Zone, and Launch Base Zone. I guess they were changed due to the ever-infamous Michael Jackson copyright situation, which I'm not going to go into here, but there are a ton of videos about that already. You can always look into it on your own. Regardless, it resulted in some games that are totally different. Carnival Night Zone I actually really like, but getting rid of Ice Cap's music just makes my blood boil. I thought the new tracks would get super jarring after years and years of playing Sonic 3, but to be honest, hearing the MIDI arrangements of tracks I already know stuck out to me way more. Well, regardless, this is a solid little package, even if it doesn't like to work on Windows 10 without a special launcher I got on Sonic Retro, and even if the special stages are straight up nauseating to play. Sonic and Knuckles collection also came in a Garfield bundle. It's not important or anything, I just really like this box art.
So what if we took Sonic Classics and Sonic and Knuckles collection and sort of just compiled the compilations, but then you throw Mean Bean Machine, get Poyo Poyo out of my face. You end up with Sonic Jam for the Sega Saturn. This one is hella good.
Released as one of the Saturn's handful of Sonic spin-off titles, Sonic Jam contains the main lineup of Sonic games from the Genesis, including all of the Sonic and Knuckles variations, in addition to a bunch of bonus content, a first for one of these collections. Unlike some later compilations, Sonic Jam is not an emulated collection, instead having the games rebuilt from scratch for the Saturn. This doesn't really impact core gameplay in any way, they're still the games as you know them, but they're optimized for the new hardware. That does open the door for a lot of quality of life improvements. Sonic 1 now has the spin dash, which is cool. All the games also feature different difficulty options. Original mode is exactly what you'd expect, just the games as they were, while normal mode is basically a tweaked version of the originals to make them flow a little bit better. Not a ton to see there. Easy mode is super neat though, since it really does make the games a lot easier, mostly by stripping each zone down to one act. Typically the first act of any given zone. It's a quick and easy Sonic experience for new players, which I think is legitimately a really cool feature and great for a collection like this. This isn't a perfect way to play the games, with some audio issues here and there, and on rare occasions some slowdown where it wouldn't have occurred on the Genesis, but overall it's still a pretty good option. Where Jam really shines though is in its bonus content. You can view the manuals for all the games, which is handy, even both the American and Japanese versions, so that's super cool. Don't make the sun laugh at you. What the fuck? Plus, there's a vast collection of videos, artwork, and music you can check out from this in-game museum area. I spent a lot of time messing around with this stuff, particularly the videos. Some of this stuff is really rare, like what was planned to be a video for a kid's ride, and having it available to see is absolutely amazing. Plus, hey look, it's all the Sonic the Screensaver art from Sonic and Knuckles on PC. Guess we had to look at it after all. Tails is a server. Now he's a stalker. He'll find ya. He'll get ya.
Of course, all of this is now easily available on the internet through sites like Sonic Retro, but at the time, that was really cool to see, but arguably, more interesting than the history presented by Sonic Jam is the manner in which that content is shown.
Rather than just use menus to access everything, the various pieces of media are scattered around this 3D hub world. It's a really cool way to present bonus content, but here's the kicker. Sonic World, as this mode is referred to in-game, is actually built off of the original Saturn builds of a Sonic RPG, or, as it would come to be known when it was finished and released on the Dreamcast, Sonic Adventure. Holy shit, how cool is that? This is basically a publicly released beta test for the very early stages of development of the single most important 3D Sonic game.
Now, Sonic Adventure is my favorite Sonic game, so maybe I am just a touch biased, but how cool is it to have a playable demo build, essentially, of the earliest form of Sonic Adventure? How cool is that? It's pretty cool.
Now, granted, there isn't a ton to do in Sonic World aside from just navigating to the various bonus areas, but there are also 8 missions you can complete where you collect rings, hit checkpoints, even fly around with Tails. Oh my god, that's cool, and eventually you unlock the credits to Sonic Jam by doing all of them. This is super cool to get to mess around with, and combined with the rather amazing selection of other bonus features and, most importantly, a pretty solid representation of the playable titles, Sonic Jam is not a collection to be missed.
Well, unless you're on any kind of a budget, then you can probably give Sonic Jam a pass. The Sega Saturn is generally a very expensive console to collect for, and Sonic Jam is unfortunately no exception, with copies typically hovering over $100, so that's kind of a shame. Although, if you really want to get your Sonic Jam fix, there was always the version for the Tiger Gamecom. That usually runs around $10, so let's give that a look.
Well, I'm not sure why God hates me, but here we are. Calling this a compilation is kind of a stretch. It claims to have Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic and Knuckles on it, but really it's more like a couple mini-games using assets from those games. The level design doesn't exactly match, and the gameplay is, well, it's gameplay, kind of. The momentum is completely broken, the controls are sluggish, and Sonic just will not go up the stupid tree thing from Sonic 3 without falling down. The Gamecom is notorious for being one of the worst handhelds ever made, if not one of the worst game systems ever made, period, and, well, this is no exception. It's slow, it's choppy, it doesn't really feature the advertised games, and it's sort of the worst thing I've ever seen. I'd find it funny, but the frame rate and performance is actually making me physically sick, so can I play something else now?
Nowadays, when most people think of the phrase Sonic compilation, the first thing that pops into their heads is probably going to be Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube, which was released in 2002. It was how I experienced the Sonic games as a kid, and as such, I have a lot of fun memories for this one.
Disc cannot be read. Ah yes, the true GameCube kid experience. Well, Mega Collection is best described as the natural evolution of Sonic Jam, except it is all emulated. That's not really a bad thing, obviously, as long as the emulation is good, and yeah, it totally is. That does mean it's missing some of the cool bonus features like spin dashing in Sonic 1 and the easy mode, but on the other hand, the audio issues and slowdown from Jam don't occur at all, so I'd say it about evens out. Plus, the game lineup is a bit more substantial. It also includes Sonic Spinball, 3D Blast, Mean Bean Machine, as well as a few non-Sonic titles like Rystar and Flicky. I like Rystar and Flicky, so that's definitely a plus, as are the other Sonic games. Granted, I never actually go out of my way to play 3D Blast or Spinball, but having access to basically the complete Genesis lineup is nice. I mean, sure, CD and Chaotix aren't included, but they're technically for add-ons, so I guess that's fine. CD's intro and outro animation are included at least, which is nice. They were in Jam as well, but wow, did I watch these a lot as a kid. I didn't really know what Sonic CD was, but damn it, I knew it had some cool cartoons. There are 2 other bonus videos included as well. One was a trailer for Sonic Advance 2, which didn't really do anything for me to be honest, but the other is this History of Sonic video. It's basically just random clips cut together of most of the games up to this point, and it leaves out all the Game Gear games and the arcade games and stuff, but man, I watched this a ton as a kid.
And there's more to it than just videos. Much like Sonic Jam before it, Sonic Mega Collection has a healthy amount of historical Sonic the Hedgehog content to look at.
There's an image gallery, though it's mostly just character artwork, and it is not nearly as in-depth or exciting as the images in Jam, as well as a comics gallery. Now, this is pretty cool, basically including every Archie Sonic cover up to that point, rest in peace. And as a kid who loved comics, this was super appealing to me. It also included a digital copy of a compilation of first appearances of major characters in the comics, letting you read it with an admittedly clunky set of controls, but I didn't care as a kid. I was reading vintage Sonic comics. Use your Genesis controller to help Sonic.
No thanks, I'm good.
All of these bonuses have the most melodramatic music playing in the background. It sounds like a fucking memorial service or something. I love it! The menu presentation in general is just kind of stunning in this game. The music in every single area is way better than it needs to be. The title theme is still one of my favorite themes in all of Sonic, and it is the theme of classic Sonic to me, till the day I die. The rest of the music is just so relaxing, and oh god, I love the 3D looks of these menus too. It just feels so sophisticated and nice for absolutely no reason. Seriously, the presentation here is top notch, but whatever, the most important thing is the gameplay, and yeah, they did a really good job here. Playing 2D platformers on a GameCube controller isn't exactly ideal, but hey, it works, and to be honest, I'm so used to it after all these years that it kinda feels like second nature to me. The quality of the emulation is pretty good, the games look, sound, and play nicely, and in the end, that's all that really matters. It isn't perfect, most notably, it's the only Sonic game on the GameCube that runs in 480i, which is gross, and I don't really like how you have to unlock Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic 2. Like, I get it for Rystar and Flicky, but Sonic 3 and Knuckles? That's stupid. But whatever, these are both kind of nitpicky complaints, and this remains an excellent way to play the Genesis Sonic games.
It sold really well, and as a result, got a port on the Xbox and PlayStation around a year later called Sonic Mega Collection Plus.
It's basically the same thing, but with some extra games, most notably around half of the Game Gear Sonic library. I would have preferred the Master System versions when available, but hey, having these at all is great. I loves me some 8-bit Sonic 1. Other than that, though, it's mostly the same deal as the other version. Save states were added, which is snazzy, and the videos are a little different, replacing the History of Sonic video with production versions of the Sonic Heroes cutscenes, which is admittedly really cool. I don't think the compilation is presented quite as well as the GameCube version, most notably the menu designs, but yeah, you can't really go wrong with either version of Mega Collection.
But even with the enhanced version, Mega Collection Plus, there were still a few notable omissions in Mega Collection, most notably Sonic CD. Plus, what about the remainder of the Game Gear games, right? Well, in 2005, our prayers were answered with Sonic Gems Collection, released to cover the more obscure, weird, niche bits of Sonic's fabled history.
Well, they left out Waku Waku Sonic Patrol Car, which is a shame, but it does include Sonic CD, which is the sole reason I bought this back in the day, and it also includes Sonic R and Sonic the Fighters, both games I've covered on the channel before, as well as the remaining Game Gear games. That's, I don't know.
Like, as a Sonic fan, I think that's hella cool, but other than Sonic CD and maybe Sonic R, there's nothing here that really appeals to a casual audience, you know?
Well, regardless, I love this compilation for what it represents. Honoring Sonic's legacy outside of the mainstay classics is great. I do think the collection suffers a little for it, though, especially since a huge chunk of the library is made up of Game Gear games, and not really great ones. Like, yeah, having Triple Trouble and both of the Tails games is awesome, and they're great to have here, but Sonic 2 is okay at best, Drift 2 is just there, and Spinball honestly makes me sick. Well, the emulation is good at least, plus hey, Sonic CD! This is how I first played the game, and it's okay, I guess. It's basically a port of the PC version, but I think the GameCube's clock speed is too much or something, because certain things move a little too fast, most notably special stages. Still, it's great to have a version of it on GameCube, and for a long time this was easily the most convenient way to play it. The Christian Whitehead version has since displaced it as the easiest version to access, and it is also objectively just the best version of the game, but that doesn't really negate how important Gems Collection was at the time. It just negates how important it is now. In fact, since the Game Gear games are all on SADX as unlockables and Sonic the Fighters is on Xbox Live, the only real must-own thing here is Sonic R. It's still the cheapest and easiest way to play it, and it is the best version of the game, so for that alone, I think people should pick up Gems Collection, but other than that, it's relatively non-essential, which is a damn shame because as a collection of Sonic's most obscure titles, I want to say it's the most worth owning, but that just isn't the case.
It almost was, though. You see, it was supposed to include the rather excellent arcade title Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, as well as the mediocre as hell, but still really interesting 32X title Knuckles Chaotix, both of which I've looked at on the channel before. Check those videos out. But it didn't include either of them. Hell, Chaotix still has its own section in the art gallery, so I'm thinking that was probably cut pretty far along, and honestly, if at least one of those games was in here, it would be the most interesting collection in this video by far, but unfortunately, you still gotta fork over like $80 for a copy of Chaotix, and that's just a shame.
Well, whatever, make no mistake, Gems Collection is still super cool. It's just lost a fair amount of appeal since the games that were exclusive to it really aren't very good. At least it had Vector Man, for some reason. Well, whatever, we've looked at a lot of console collections, let's switch it up and look at a handheld one. Sonic Classics Collection was released for the DS in 2009, and it contains Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic & Knuckles, and the lock-on variants, though no Blue Spheres this time. Basically, it's the Sonic Jam lineup, and hey, the menu music is from Sonic Jam as well! That's a great little tribute to the granddaddy of good Sonic collections. There isn't a ton in terms of bonus content here, just some Sonic the Screensaver art again, but for a handheld, I didn't really expect as much. As long as the games are good, I'm happy, and well, I mean, I guess it's fine. The emulation is about as good as you can expect it to be in the DS, which is to say, everything's perfectly playable and mostly runs fine. There's no major lag or anything, but some stuff is a little weird as a result of the console it's on. Most notably, the resolution of the DS screen is pretty low, which results in some seriously compressed graphics. It looks a lot better on an actual screen than blown up by my capture card like this, but it still isn't ideal. Surprisingly, this does not seem to impact the Sonic 2 special stages at all, but Blue Spheres is physically painful. There's some slowdown here and there, and the audio is just plain odd at times, but in general, this isn't an awful way to play the Genesis Sonic games. In fact, I personally put dozens of hours into this collection back as a kid on various car rides and the like, but considering how much praise this collection seems to get, I can't help but say it's just fine. Although, if you are a Sonic fan with a DS or 3DS, this definitely does do the job.
Well, that's basically it in terms of Sonic compilations, at least the ones that I personally own or have access to. Sonic's been part of other compilations and collections since then as well. Obviously, Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection for the 360 and PS3 is a pretty popular one, but it features a lot of stuff aside from Sonic. It's basically just a compilation of Genesis games in general, and while it's great, it just doesn't really fit the mold of the video, so meh. If I have to pick a personal favorite out of all these compilations, I'd probably say either the GameCube version of Mega Collection or the Saturn version of Sonic Jam. Definitely not that version. God, please make it stop. But what's your favorite Sonic collection? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. You can always subscribe if you want to see more from me, and join the channel's Discord server. Link is in the description below. As always, guys, I'm LyingTuna, signing off. See you next time. Bye-bye.